Kylen Mills, welcome to the Sport Profile.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Very excited. Happy to chat with you, Dylan.
I'm also super excited for this. I mean, we just had a real fun pregame, which I like to have with everybody pretty much, talking about a lot of stuff. But something I wanted to ask you about is that you describe yourself as a pizza aficionado. You know, you're very public about that. You're from the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
You have standards.
Yeah.
So what are they? What are your standards for a quality slice of pizza?
Yeah. So I think that number one, the sauce has to be delicious. There needs to be a good like tomato and like tangy flavor. I think a bland sauce can completely ruin a pizza. There needs to be plenty of cheese. A big part of being a elite pizza is that I don't think it should require a ton of toppings to be delicious. I think that stripped down and basic, it should be a delicious pizza. And then, yes, you can add toppings, but I don't think the toppings should make the pizza. Like, you have to have delicious main ingredients. So, again, that starts with the sauce and then the cheese. And there's got to be plenty of cheese. Nothing's worse than a pizza without enough cheese. The other thing is you got to test it and make sure the cheese passes the string test. Like, the cheese should be
You want a
gooey.
good pull.
Yeah, there should be a pull. It should be gooey.
Gooey,
like the hard
really?
kind of cheese, like the hard, like it's just not good. Now, granted, different styles of cheese, sometimes it won't always pass the pull test.
Completely
But
agree.
like some like wood fire tavern style won't have, full pull cheese, but still, I just think
But it'll
sometimes
still
when they
be
have
gooey,
kind of like
though.
hard. Yeah, it'll be gooey. Just, I don't know. There's somewhere it's like, it's bad cheese. And then obviously the crust is the other
Yes.
thing that makes it. I do think a bad crust can ruin a pizza. It's got to be
Completely.
crunchy. It's got to be crispy. Now, one thing I will say is that I am partial. I do like Chicago deep dish style pizza.
I was going to ask,
native.
like, where does that kind of sit on your list there?
Yeah, so I love it. I get some people are not fans of it, but I do love Detroit style pizza would maybe be my second favorite. My hot take for you, Dylan, is I'm not crazy about New York style pizza. Like super, super greasy. The grease hurts my stomach. I can't tell you how many people I say that to that are like, oh my God, what? How do you not like New York style pizza? I'm sorry. It's just not my favorite style of pizza.
Well,
so that's my hot take.
You have San Francisco roots, you have Chicago roots, like
yes.
I don't think San Francisco has good pizza either.
No, so San Francisco does not have good pizza. That's actually, so Tony's in North Beach. If anyone's from San Francisco, one of my favorite places, you'll get that shout out, like real original Italian. But honestly, I tried a lot of pizza in SF, was not blown away. I have had some great pizza in New York. I'm just saying the New York style itself, just like not necessarily my favorite style.
Yeah.
So, sorry for you Northeasterners.
I mean, it's all good. I still think, oddly enough, pizza is probably the best priced thing in the city.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You can still get like a $2 slice, which
Without
I do
question.
love. I love that.
Great grab and go option real quick. I mean, you can also sit down, but if you need something real quick, first of all, you have like a billion options.
Yep.
And they're probably all going to get like relative consistency. That's my
Oh, yeah, totally.
That's my like, I guess, pitch for New York pizza. It's like, you might not like it because of the grease, you said, totally valid, right? Messes up your stomach, my stomach, many others. But guess what? They're always going to be consistent.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think that like you can be walking down the street and wander into a $2 slice place, and I don't think you're going to get a bad pizza. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be,
you might get
like
greasy.
You said, the consistency, I think, is a good point. I don't know. I would walk into anywhere in New York where they have that advertised, and like I just have a feeling I'm going to get at least like an above average pizza.
Oh, without question. And I feel the same way about Chicago, albeit I've never been, always wanted to go to Chicago, heard great things, know some really fun people. But first of all, I loved how you articulated your perspective about deep dish and the Chicago pizza scene. I love that you mentioned the toppings don't make the pizza, but what would you say is your favorite topping?
Favorite topping, honestly, since I was a child, I literally have just loved cheese pizza.
Sure, just plain slice.
I've always, like when I was a kid, just always was a cheese pizza girl. Obviously, getting older, I would eat sausage, I would eat pepperoni. I actually am now a vegetarian. I went vegetarian in the last year. Yes,
nice.
For health reasons, for love of animal reasons. So I don't do any of the meat toppings anymore, which I know sounds kind of lame because I did enjoy them when I was eating that.
It was less greasy for you.
Yeah, even now I still love just like veggie toppings. Like I could put
Absolutely.
mushroom, green pepper, even like a lot of places by me have like a spinach and something with it. And
Okay.
like honestly, I can eat it with greens. But I've always just been a
Yeah.
tried and true cheese pizza girly.
Absolutely. I think it's great. Honestly, me too. I don't like too many toppings on my pizza just because it's like there's too much going on.
Yeah, there
All
can be.
right.
Hmm.
So last question on the pizza because I do
Yes.
think this is very important. Do you have any pet peeves
Pet peeves
relating to
about
pizza?
pizza.
Relating to pizza? Yeah. My
Yep.
personal one example is like if I pick it up and the cheese just drops, like that sucks. I know you said you like gooey pizza, totally valid perspective. But if I
Yeah.
pick it up and there's cheese just pulling by gravity, that sucks.
So my pet peeve isn't necessarily as much to do with the pizza, and it's more the pizza eater, but I'm still gonna roll this into a pet peeve. I met up with someone a couple months ago, and I have seen this throughout the course of my life on rare occasions, but deep dish is the exception, but you cannot eat regular pizza with a fork. Like if you have a regular thin crust pizza,
No.
tavern style pizza, you cannot cut up a pizza. Dude, Dylan, I just went to dinner with someone who did that with like a thin, like wood fire personal pizza. The slices weren't even big. It was like, just like a little 10-inch pizza.
Jail
You can't
time.
use a fork and knife
That's
to
a,
cut and eat
that's
it.
such a red
That
flag.
was yes, okay, thank you. I literally posted
If
this
it,
on my Instagram story, and I was
look,
like,
I don't know if you're
"It's
I don't
just
know if
me,
you're
or is this a red flag?"
I don't know if you're seeing anybody dating anybody, but if you were on a date with that individual, I
Yeah.
would not see them again.
So it was not a romantic date. It was a friend meetup, but it was someone I didn't know well, and I literally posted on my Instagram story. I'm like, "Do I
I
judge this
don't think I would
person?
talk to them
Do
again.
I?" Yes, okay, I literally asked that question, and so many people responded like, "Absolutely not." They were like, "The fork is a no-go. The fork and knife
No.
pizza eating is a no-go." And I was like, "Okay, I'm validated. I'm not trying to be a judgmental person," but I was like, "I can't. It's a red flag. It's such a red flag."
I was out with a friend a couple summers ago in Washington D.C. who is not known for the best bagel scene. Being from Jersey, I do have
Right.
standards.
Yeah,
Being
I love
Jewish,
New
I
York. I
also have
love a New York
standards.
bagel.
Absolutely. And she cut her bagel into fourths. I said I should call the cops.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I
You
think
need to
that
be put in federal prison.
it's less dude, Dylan, that's less of a red flag than eating thin crust pizza with a fork.
Oh,
But
I agree.
I still think it's definitely I don't know, straight to jail? Are we going with straight to jail on a scale of 0 to
Straight
prison
to jail.
time, life in jail,
Without
life in prison?
not life, but like you get
Okay,
parole.
but straight to jail. Yeah, you get
You get
parole.
parole. Pizza with a fork? No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's when you're done. You're done. You're done. You're dead to me.
Yeah, no parole there.
I
But
quarters, it's a little much, but for the bagel.
all she got in it was butter.
Oh,
You didn't
see,
even have anything on it.
that's worse for me. No, no.
I should have said that. I
Bagel
should have
cut into
prefaced with that
fours
one
with
at
butter
least.
on it.
Right.
That's ooh, no. That's like 5 years in jail for me.
Right.
That's like a little
I should have
longer stay.
prefaced
Yeah,
that
yeah.
first.
You buried the lead there, Dylan. The
Right.
butter on the bagel also
Cut into
is a deal
fourths.
breaker. Yeah, cut into
I
fours.
agree too. I'm like, no,
No. No,
no.
honey, no.
But so we've established
I love
that
this
you.
conversation.
Oh, me too. It's amazing. It's exactly the type of conversations I love to have on here. We've established yourself as a pizza aficionado. You've
Okay,
convinced me about that, but the thing you don't need to convince anybody about is that you are a amazing broadcaster,
thank you.
and I really liked how you've committed yourself really since you were a child to
Mhm.
this. I read that you interviewed your younger sister Kendra growing up,
Yes.
and
Accurate.
first of all, what were you interviewing her about? Tell me about like kind of those times where you would pull her aside and be like, "Yo, you're getting interviewed now."
So I'm not gonna go as far as to say that like I when I was like 5 was like, I'm dreaming in kindergarten of being a sports broadcaster. I literally wrote on like my parents still have an assignment I did in kindergarten where it was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said that I wanted to be a dolphin trainer. So
Okay, awesome,
very interesting choice to make
love
as
it.
my parents were like, what? Like, I don't know. I guess we went to SeaWorld once. I'm not really sure like that. I did love dolphins. But as I got older throughout elementary school, I definitely was a talker. I was a great student, but that was the one thing that my teachers were always like, okay, like Kylen's great, but like sometimes she has to stop talking. So I was a talker, which lends itself to a career in broadcasting. And then I loved
A little bit
creative
more controlled of
writing.
a talker.
Yeah, right. A little bit of a different setting, but still, you definitely have to have, an outgoing and social personality for the most part, I will say.
Totally.
So lended itself to that, and then obviously I love sports. I played every sport, and then I love storytelling, like creative writing. When I got into like a certain age, was like one of my favorite things. And like I don't know how I even got the idea, but there were a couple times where we'd have class projects or whatever else, and like anytime we had like a project or something like that, I would be like, or I would pitch like, "Can I do a fake newscast?" So, like,
Hmm.
I don't know, I did fake newscasts for, like, school projects and, like, things like that where I had an excuse to do it, and my sister, obviously, she was 2 years younger than me, so the younger sibling is the unfortunate, guinea pig for
Yeah.
for my little newscast.
Sure.
So, I would do newscasts, I had, like, a little mini microphone and made, like, a little, mic flag for it, and
So cool.
my dad filmed it at home. Like, the thing is, I don't remember, I gotta ask my parents about this, like, I don't think I did it, like, once a month or anything, like, it was crazy,
Sure.
but periodically did do a little newscast. Like I said, I remember for, like, a couple different class projects doing it for school, and my sister was the interviewee. What I interviewed her about, I mean, we have some clips of it, they're all over the
Hmm.
map. One of the interviews or, like, one that I posted on my social media feeds, I didn't include the sound, but, like, I don't know. She's a $1,000,000 lottery winner in my interview, and I'm interviewing a lottery winner, and I'm like, "Well, what are you gonna do with the money?" And she said she wants to open a zoo, but she
So
specifically
you
wants.
could be the dolphin trainer.
Yeah, right, exactly, and then my dream could be realized. She wanted to open a zoo. Her favorite, animal was monkeys, like, she knew very detailed every different species, like
Really?
small, yeah,
So interesting.
capuchin. So, dude, yeah, so we have a clip of this funny interview where she's like, "I specifically want the zoo for, like, capuchin monkeys," and, like, she goes onto this diatribe about, like, capuchin monkeys because she knew all these weirdo facts at, like, 8 years old, because she was just obsessed. So, that was
That's
an example,
amazing.
and then I started asking her, like I kind of was good at it, though, honestly. I was like, "Okay, well, where are you gonna open the zoo?" And I was like,
Oh,
had
asking
all
the
these follow-up
follow-ups.
questions. I was like, where are you going to
Yeah.
open the zoo? Like, what types of, I think that's why she went on the rant about capuchin monkeys. I asked her, what kind of species of monkey is this zoo going to feature? Like, do you have specifics? And yeah, I went through a like whole host of interview questions. The funny part is though that there's like literally 20 outtakes where both of us start laughing in the middle of it and we're like yelling at each other. So I honestly should post that whole clip one day because it's so funny. So my sister was my
Yeah.
first interviewee. I don't really know how I got the idea, but like I said, I always was a talker. I definitely had a affinity for like wanting to performances at home and like making my parents have to be the audience, like so many of us kids did.
Sure.
But so there was always just kind of this idea that I would be good at being on TV. And lo and behold, it worked out. Now, it wasn't until high
Yeah.
school that I actually was like, okay, this is a career that I want to pursue. When I got a little bit older, but it was just kind of funny. I just did some newscasts like throughout elementary school.
Is Kendra still your kind of guinea pig for your career at all? Like, did you have her review things, demo tapes early on, rehearse things with you just to be another person? How long did that guinea pig title last for her?
That's a great question, and there's a good answer for that too. So I went to York High School in Elmhurst, Illinois, in the suburbs, and we did a morning announcements news class, and that's where I really
Mm-hmm.
figured out. I took intro to broadcasting when I was like a freshman or sophomore, and did the morning announcements my junior senior year.
Yeah.
And of course, I had to get my sister in the morning announcements, so I made her join the class with me. She actually got in the class as a sophomore, which you weren't allowed to do. I definitely pulled some strings to be like, it was
Right.
supposed to be all upperclassmen, junior plus, and so
I
I was a
never got to
senior.
do that. I've always
And
wanted to.
yeah, so it was a great class. It was first period. I was a senior and she was a sophomore, and she was definitely my guinea pig because we would obviously, like for the class, we'd have to go out and shoot videos. Okay, your project is to do a feature
Wow.
or to do like a sports, da da da. So there definitely were some times where she was a guinea pig for stuff like that. And it was honestly
Sure.
really fun. We did some morning newscasts together for York High School, me and my sister
That's
sharing
so
the desk,
cool.
which is amazing. And I wish we had clips of that. We do not. I mean, it aired during second period just to the school. So, like, I don't know. It's not like they were like sending it to my parents, but looking back, that was awesome. Further on in my career, not as much, but
Sure.
she's obviously always been very supportive. And if anything, my husband, Charlie, is my guinea pig now. And
Oh, well,
my
yeah. What
parents still a
what else
little
are
bit.
husbands for?
Oh, exactly, to be the guinea pig, and then
Right.
my mom also is, like, my number 1 fan. She watches I don't wanna say every broadcast 'cause I do a lot. I do, like,
Of
200
course.
broadcasts a year, but she watches a lot, and she's very good about taking videos,
Yeah.
photos, posting clips on her Instagram, so that's adorable, but she does get mad
Of
at me when I don't
course.
tell her when I'm on. She's like, "Why didn't you tell me you were gonna be on?" I'm like, "Girl, like, I do 200 broadcasts. I can't text you every
You're
time.
also on
I do
so
this
many
for a
different
living."
networks.
Right, I'm like, "Yes, that's true." So she expects me to give her the updates on, like, what my schedule is and when I'm gonna be broadcasting and what games every week, which is funny, but so
Yeah.
she's my sort of guinea pig. She's just like my cheerleader.
There was something that's very interesting to me based on what you just said. You're doing so many broadcasts in a year. It's about 200, you said, give or take maybe. What would you say are the biggest misconceptions that you kind of run into about being a broadcaster, working with so many different networks? I have a few in my head and can share them, but for you personally, what would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions about your specific role?
Yeah, I think number one is just that everyone assumes that everything about being on TV is glamorous. Like, oh my God,
Yeah,
your job's so cool. And it is very cool, but it must be glamorous all the time. And it's not. I'm very fortunate to do what I do. I'm
of
very
course.
lucky to be employed by so many networks. So I don't want to, take away from that. Like,
Yeah.
I am very grateful to be in the position I'm in, but like, it's definitely not glamorous. People don't realize how many hours you spend preparing and doing notes and watching film and just doing things that are honestly a grind when you're sitting in my office for 8 9 hours a day when I'm sitting in
Yeah.
a hotel room. People another this kind of rolls into another misconception that obviously I travel a lot for work. I'm going on site for games that I call quite often, and
Sure.
people are like, oh wow, like that's awesome, it's like a vacation to Miami. And I'm like, no, actually I spent like 8 or 9 hours in a hotel room, and then I went to team practices, shoot arounds, and sat in those for a couple hours. I rushed out, I got ready and showered, I went to the game and I covered it and I flew out. So I don't know, people just think that you have all this free time and stuff on these work
Right.
trips, and I'm like, no, I actually work pretty much the entire time, because when you have so
Yeah.
many broadcasts in a week, you got to, make the most of your time and do the prep that you got to do. So I think just, there's just this kind of misconception about it being glamorized. And I think to some degree, when you get to the top, and, there obviously are more perks to it, and you're being flown first class, and, you have car services and makeup at every turn. But like for
Right.
95% of us that are, working our way up the ladder, like there's, very few perks that are like that anyway. You're dealing with delays at the airport and layovers and horrible flight schedules and crowds, and so there's certainly a grind with
Mhm.
being on the road all the time. It's definitely exhausting. It's hard on the body. Like I said, the prep is really, a grind as well. You're spending hours and hours and hours preparing. So there's just a lot of little things that I think people don't realize that go into it.
Sure.
Probably just like a specific misconception. I host a lot of shows. People always
Right.
ask me, "Oh, so does someone tell you what to say and write it in the teleprompter?" And I'm like, "No, we don't use teleprompters." Again, for some like select big network shows, like your sports centers and whatnot, they may have teleprompter for aspects of the show or the whole show. But for the
Right.
most part, most of your pre and post game shows that you're watching at regional networks and beyond don't have a teleprompter or scripts or anything. And people
Yeah.
always assume like, oh, well, someone's typing in a teleprompter, you're reading off a teleprompter. No, I'm saying everything off the dome, and I have to actually know a lot about both of these teams that are competing this league, etc.
Yeah.
So people are always very surprised when I'm like, no, I don't read off a teleprompter. Like everything that you hear me say, like I am making up. I mean, not making up, but
Not
I
making up.
am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am ad-libbing this. I am saying this off the dome, and it's based on the research and the information I know about both these teams, and obviously the
Right.
game plan we come up with our producers in terms of the direction we want the show to go. Like that's how I come up with what I'm saying.
Oh, for
And along
sure.
those lines, people also always ask me, is someone telling you in your ear what to say? Again,
Hmm.
no. Yes, you wear an earpiece or an IFB and your producer's talking to you, but they're not
Right.
telling you what to say. They will give you guidelines in terms of what segment or element is coming next, especially with post game shows. There's a lot of moving parts in terms of like
Sure.
when you might be getting interviews with someone, or when a certain, coach is going to the podium, you're going to toss that to that when the highlight is online and ready. So there is a fair amount of guidance in terms of you're flying by the seat of your pants a little bit, and you're kind of waiting for them to direct you to what the next thing is, but they're not telling you what to say. Like you got to
Yeah.
figure out how to segue from one thing to the next, or one aspect of the game or the team to the next, or go from one team to the other. And there is no one telling you what to say, which is something that people ask me all the time.
Yeah.
And finally, people are always shocked to hear that for the most part, I do my own hair and makeup. And now,
Hmm.
again, at bigger national networks, it's network dependent and event dependent. There are hair and makeup artists at some places, and
Yeah.
I have had that, but also at a lot of places, there's still not hair and makeup artists. Even I know sideline reporters, big national networks that do their own hair and makeup, most regional networks, so where you watch your favorite local professional sports teams, 90% of them are doing their own hair and makeup, especially
Wow.
after COVID. A lot of places that did utilize hair and makeup artists, they weren't able to use them during COVID. And then coming back from
Right.
COVID, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, we can kind of get away with this. And it's obviously a big expense to pay people who are artists and extremely talented, but we can
Sure.
kind of get away with this without this expense. And everywhere is trying to tighten their budgets. Certainly,
Yeah.
there's, some challenges facing TV news or sports TV at this time.
Of
So
course.
that's a way to tighten up the budget. So that's another thing people are always surprised about. And I came up starting my journey through local news.
Right.
And, people are often surprised, even in places like Chicago, big local news stations. Again, most people that you see are doing your own hair and makeup. So that's another thing people are always shocked by. They're like, oh, what?
Hmm.
Like, again, maybe it's not as glamorous as you thought. You got to learn how to do your own hair and makeup. You got to do a good job. You got to pay for the products. And so I don't know. Those are probably the main things that come to mind.
Yeah, no, I think all of those are very, very true. And a lot of that, not many people at all take into consideration. I mean, shit, you said, you even said some that I didn't even think of, which is like the hair and makeup portion.
Yeah.
I didn't always know that, like, people always did it themselves. I
Yep.
mean, definitely at like the bigger networks, I feel like you would have some, but like even at like the smaller, more like conference based networks, maybe like you don't.
Sure.
You know, one that I've always found fascinating is that people think, oh yeah, they're full time with every network,
Good point.
and
Hmm.
I've learned that that's not the case. If you could speak on that, I'm curious how that kind of dynamic has played into your career, working with so many different networks, being legally a freelancer, but everybody sees you on different networks and thinks, oh my God, you're working with so many different networks. You must be full time making bank, which I'm sure you make a good living. I'm not saying that, but
Yeah.
just working with every network
Yeah,
it's
no,
an
you're
interesting
you're
perspective.
right in that there is a major misconception that people assume there's all these full-time jobs in sports broadcasting when that's just not the case. Again, 90%, I guarantee, or 95% even of the people that you see broadcasting sports are not full-time at any network, whether it be the play-by-plays calling the games, the analysts, and even the studio hosts. Most
Sure.
are not full-time with national networks, with regional networks, at really any layer of sports broadcasting. Most people are freelance. Now, you can work out deals with the networks where you will have a minimum event, so you kind of know how many events you're going to do for that
Sure.
network, maybe for a specific sport. At the Big Ten Network, I may know going into the year, okay, I'm doing at least 80 events for the Big Ten Network. So that's great. You kind of have
Right.
a base, and then you add in other networks from there, to piecemeal together whatever you want your, final income to be to obviously continue to grow with other networks and whatnot. But even people that you see again at high profile networks, it's not people a lot of times assume that it's full time, but it's definitely a very, very vast minority to be full time with a
Sure.
network versus having a freelance contract. And again, that can vary from they say, hey, we're going to guarantee you this many events. Maybe nothing's guaranteed and they just call you when they need you. And then maybe, like I said, sometimes you can get a larger freelance contract where it's like, okay, you're kind of like quasi full time. You know that you're going to
Right.
get a large amount of work, but you can still sprinkle other stuff in. But a vast majority of people that you see on TV are on freelance deals. Very, very, very few full time jobs exist in network sports television.
I've hated the negative connotation toward the term freelancer.
Hmm.
Hated it. And I really push back against it because people who are freelancers are doing amazing work. They're often working more than people who are doing full time work. They just have, a little
Yeah.
bit more control of their schedule.
Yeah.
But that's also the beauty of it, right?
Yeah, there's advantages to both sides. Like when you're full
Absolutely.
time, I mean, I know a lot of people who've worked full time jobs that got totally burnt out because they were worked into the ground and they worked
Right.
more than, for example, 200 events. Because when you're full time, again, like a freelancer, you have more control over your schedule. You have the ability to say no to things versus if it's your full time employer and they schedule you for XYZ, obviously, depending on protections that are built into your full-time contract,
For
but, like,
sure.
you may not have a lot of leeway to say no to things, and so you're
Right.
kind of at their discretion in terms of what your week or what your workload might look like, so, that can certainly be a challenge of being full-time, whereas you obviously get the benefits of, getting a regular salary, knowing what your income's gonna be, whereas there's obviously fluctuation with freelance work where you may have
Sure.
more a certain time of year, less a certain time of year, depending on what sports you're covering. So, yeah, the advantages to full time are obviously having the regularity and the stability in
Right.
who's employing you, how much money you're bringing in. You get the vacation days. You typically get the benefits, whether it be healthcare and things like that, and sick days. But then on the other side, for freelance, you absolutely have more control over your schedule. You can choose who you work for. You ultimately can say no to things when you want to
Yeah.
say no to things. You can choose, again, kind of pick the sports that you want to do. Now, of course, when you're trying to grow and work your way up the ladder, you got to say yes to things more
Right.
than you say no. But there is a level of freedom that you have that you can, grow in whatever areas you want to grow in. And you do have, at the end of the day, the final say over your schedule and kind of what direction you're going. So both have advantages, both have disadvantages. I don't think there should
Right.
be a negative connotation with being
Me
freelance. Like I
neither.
said, 90% of people are. It is what it is.
Right.
But yeah, I would say that there's benefits and challenges to both sides.
And I just think it's a negative connotation in work in general, right? Not just like
Mhm.
within sports media specifically. I guess I've just experienced, not so much personally, but heard other perceptions of
Yep,
freelancing as being negative, and I'm like, it's not. Like,
totally.
people are gonna do what they need to do to pursue their dreams. But going throughout your career, how did that perspective, I guess, change for you, or evolve rather is a better word, from everybody, I guess, wants to be full time, right? They want to
Yeah.
have that stability, but evolving in your career and growing, you find, like you said, 95% of folks are freelancers. So did that perspective, I guess, evolve for you as you were, making your way up? And if so, how?
It's an interesting point, and I actually have a story specific to that. So
Please.
I started out working in local news, and I was full
Yeah.
time. And my last local news job was working as a sports anchor and reporter at Cron 4 News out in San Francisco, where I was full time. While I was there, I started calling games on the side, doing some analyst work on the side specific to soccer. I played college soccer, so some
Mm-hmm.
opportunities kind of started opening up for me there. I started doing a
D2
little bit of
star.
basketball. There we go. I chose D2, but some opportunities started to open up for me in both soccer and basketball, doing stuff kind of on the side, and I had an opportunity come about, to work on an NWSL broadcast airing on
Hmm.
CBS Sports, and I was still working full time at the time at Cron 4 News, and I did have a contract, and I had to get permission to do any outside work, so I went to
Sure.
my boss and was like, "Hey, I wanna do this," and they said, "No." And I
Really?
said, "What?" I was devastated. I actually was on
Huh.
my honeymoon when my boss said no, and I was, like, shocked because there
Wow.
had been a precedent set at where I was working that people had been allowed to do outside work. The sports director where I worked literally, like, worked at a radio station in town, did work for NBA TV, like, all this other
Huh.
stuff, and they just said no to me just to say no, and I really
But they
wasn't
said yes to
given.
those others? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
so they'd said yes to others. They said no, and they were just like, "Well,
Interesting.
we just don't want people just blowing off their responsibilities at our station at Cron just to be taking a better opportunity." And it was just like, "What? Like, that's not even a reason. Like, if anything, you should be happy. Your
What?
people are really good. Like, you have
Yeah.
good people that are," yeah. So it was just like a crazy situation. Um, and I think
Oh
for
my
me, I had a
gosh.
realization about wanting to really have control over what I can and can't do, and
Right.
just that was the first time I think being really beholden to a contract really kinda slapped me in the face, and I remember just being devastated, I was crying,
On your
I
honeymoon,
thought
nonetheless.
I thought that I know, dude, don't get me started. I was, like, crying on my honeymoon. Well, so the opportunity had come via email, like, this executive producer, it's kind of a long story, had reached out to me, he got my name for, like, I didn't apply or, like, reach out to
Right.
anyone, he got my name from someone else and was like, "We have this hole to fill in the schedule, um, we've seen your reel. Can you do this?" I was like, "Oh my God, like, yes, yes. Like, this is such a
Yeah.
big opportunity for me." Like, when it comes to doing actual sports network work, and I mentioned I've been doing play-by-play and analyst work. I'd never gotten an opportunity at that point at
Sure.
any type of network level. I'd been doing local news for the last 9 years. And so I was like, this could be a big break for me. And I was so excited. And then obviously I immediately went to, trying to do everything by the book, like reach out to my boss, just make sure everything was clear. And I just was shocked because I didn't think they were going to say no. And I was devastated. And I thought I was going to miss my shot. I was like, I'm never gonna make it. Like, this is, my one chance. I'm burning a bridge with this guy, this
Yeah.
executive producer asked me to do it. And now I'm saying, I originally think I'd messaged him back right away. I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do it. And then I had to email
Shit,
him,
I would do
follow
the
up and be
same.
like, I called him and I was like, I'm so sorry. My boss won't let me. I can't. And unfortunately, due to my local news contract, like I just don't want to get you in a bad spot or me in a bad spot. So I'm gonna, choose to honor that where I
Right.
guess, some people maybe wouldn't. So was it to my own detriment that I, tried to do things the right way? Maybe. But that's always how I've always operated in my career. And I tend to lean into doing things, the right way. And
Rightfully so.
that time it did not pay off. But I remember I kind of had this realization where I was just like, I don't know. I don't want to
You
keep
felt
doing this.
icky a little bit.
Yeah, it felt horrible, and I, had been at the station for a couple years. I had, great rapport with my bosses. I'd,
Yeah.
all of our reviews, positive work, like never had any issues. So, it hurt. Honestly, it hurt. It was frustrating and it hurt, and it was like a tough realization for me that like,
Oh
oh
my
wait,
god,
maybe
yeah.
not all these people at the top have my best interests at heart. They're thinking about the company or whatever decision they decide to make, and that's where I was kind of like, man, that was really a catalyst for me for stepping away from local news in a full-time role
Right.
and to kind of take a chance on myself and decide to go into freelance and pursue play-by-play and hosting and other opportunities. After that happened, I really think I realized it was kind of weird timing that my contract was coming up at the station in a few months and I had the
Oh,
option to
really?
go back and yeah, I had an option to renew my
Wow.
contract and to go back there, and I think that was just like divine timing, and that kind of was a thing that
Huh.
forced me out of my comfort zone to say, you know what, I'm going to step away from this. I'm going to try the whole freelance thing and try to work at sports networks because that's my dream, and I'm going to bet on myself and hope that it works out. But I think it was a
Yeah.
tough realization for me about, like I said, just some of the big drawbacks to being full time is not really having full control, at least if you want to
Right.
do things the right way and follow contracts and those types of things. So I decided to take the leap of faith actually after that happened. So like I said,
Yeah.
I always think kind of looking back, maybe it was divine intervention because it worked out for the best. And I think that was kind of like the little push off the ledge that I needed to be like, okay,
Sure.
like I think that this is
It's
time where
interesting that
I've outgrown this thing that I've been doing and I need to take that step into the abyss that's the next thing that I'm doing that,
right.
may be a little bit scary, but I kind of that was that realization point where I'm like, I need to do this. Like I need to step out of local news.
Well, it's interesting that gap was so small between that email and that interaction and your contract ending.
Yes, it
You know,
was.
you
It
said
was
it was
very
only like a
small. It
few
was
months.
Yeah, it was like a 2-month difference.
Wow.
So I
I
was like,
mean,
"Yay, bye."
yeah, I mean, that kinda, gave you the
It was
writing
like
on the wall,
yeah,
and
it
I can
did, for
tell
sure.
how I can certainly tell how, impactful it was for you. I mean, you wear your emotions on your face, like, that I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like some of the feelings even were just brought back up, but,
Yeah, oh, of course, for sure. It definitely was
it
an
certainly
emotional
stings,
thing. It was well, it's just, I look back at it now and I'm grateful because I'm like, "Thank God," because if
for
that hadn't
sure.
happened, would I have re-signed at that local news station? Would I have continued to stay in a job that was comfortable, but maybe was at the point where it wasn't serving me or I had outgrown it? So I do look back at that at the end of the day with more gratitude, but yeah, obviously, like, when I go back to that place and just, like, that moment when, they told me I couldn't do that and I was just, like, absolutely devastated. Yeah, it definitely brings back some of the
And
feelings, but it also is a good perspective
yeah,
in terms of like I just feel like there's so often in this industry and I'm someone who like is really hard on myself and perfectionist. If you make a mistake,
same.
if you make a mistake or if something doesn't go well, like, oh my gosh, this is the end. Like this is the end. I blew my shot. I'm never going to be on TV again.
Yeah,
And I just think, a lot of times you kind of got to zoom out and look at it from 5,000 miles above. Like, in 5 years, is this going to matter? And like now looking back on it, is missing that specific broadcast, like, did that like ruin my career? No, if anything, like I said, I think that, in hindsight, that was a positive thing because
true.
honestly, it kind of opened my eyes to what really I was dealing with in terms of who I was working for and the role that I was in local news. And it forced me out into a better space that led to where I am
Right.
today and like allowed me to blossom in so many ways. So, I don't know. I also think it's good perspective and a reminder whenever you deal with challenges like that, or someone says no, or a door slams in your face and you feel like it's the end. Like there's always a window cracked open, and there
Yeah.
will be more opportunities. It's never just one opportunity. And if you don't, do everything perfect
Yeah.
or it doesn't pan out, it's not the end. And I think that's something I've had to remind myself throughout my career.
I'm still reminding myself about that now,
Yeah.
and
No,
have been for a while.
hmm
Um, you had a really great belated or happy belated birthday, but you had a great birthday post where you said lessons that you wish you said in your 20s now that you are,
Mhm.
in your 30s. And, and some of them were, along the lines of what you just said, protecting your peace, betting on yourself, which you've
Yep.
done both of those, not letting, what others think enter your headspace,
Yeah.
another thing you've done, um, and continue to do. But, you know, Kylen saying that to her in her 20s, what would you say to, I guess, the young girl interviewing Kendra then?
I think I'm super proud of how far I've come and all I've accomplished. So, like, I think
Sure.
that's the first thing is like, it is cool to look back at those videos and stuff and just think, like, man, like, little me would have thought that I'm so cool right now. Like, and
Yeah.
it's also, again, good perspective because you get wrapped up in whatever the next thing is, or you get wrapped up in something that's gone wrong or a little detail. And at the end of the day, again, when you look at things from 5,000 miles above, like, okay, I'm interviewing Steph Curry and I'm traveling with the
Yeah.
Golden State Warriors and as they're winning in NBA championship and maybe I flubbed a word on one live shot and it's like at the end of the day like does that really matter? Like does that
Right.
matter? And things that I'm getting to do now like I just got to interview Jordan Giles on a Fox broadcast that aired
That's
nationally that like
sick.
a lot of people watched and it's like oh my god, there's like one little thing from that day that'll be like, "Oh, I didn't do this perfect," or "I didn't 100% phrase that," or "My pause was too long." Like us as perfectionists in this industry, you always look for the little
Yes, we
things.
do.
Coaches are like that, where you look for the little things
Of
that you
course.
can fine tune and improve. But I just think that looking back on yourself in your younger days is such a good reminder of like just how much you have accomplished, how great you're doing, the fact
Yeah.
that you are doing, and I do feel this way, that I'm doing everything that I dreamed of doing. And of course, I always want more. And I want to now like crank it up a notch to being on the biggest events. And, doing an Olympics is like or a World Cup or two things that are like bucket lists for me that I would love to continue working towards. But still, like what I'm doing now is pretty awesome. And I absolutely believe that younger me would be proud of that. In
She
terms of
might get pissed
message,
off about the dolphin, though.
yeah, that's true. So whatever happened to the dolphins?
I
I
think
still
that
love
you know what?
dolphins.
I think
I
that
actually
would be
don't
one of
support dolphins in captivity anymore, so I
I
would
mean,
not
yeah.
be into I would not be into being a dolphin trainer. I
Well,
actually am like a crazy animal lover.
I think 8-year-old Kylen would ask that hard-hitting question, though.
Probably would, but I still do love animals. I'm a crazy
Yeah,
animal lover, and I
of
am an
course.
animal advocate, and I love animals. Like I said, that's a big reason why I decided to go vegetarian. I haven't been
Yeah,
able to go full vegan yet. Listen, like steps people, it's very difficult with our
absolutely.
schedules. Being on the road all the time, I'm always like trying to find last minute food. I don't eat. You're trying to eat in airports, so like
Yeah,
finding vegan options on the road is very difficult. But I've made the choice to go vegetarian, so I think that younger me would be proud of that because I was always an animal person. I was a crazy
yeah.
horse girl. I had a horse collection of horse figurines. I took horseback riding
Amazing.
lessons. So dolphins and horses, those were two of my loves back then, and I still love animals now.
Yeah.
Did you want to know like what my message would be though to my 25-year-old self?
Please.
I feel like I deviated too far from your question, Dylan.
No,
I'm
no, no,
sorry.
I mean, look, same. But, like, no, but definitely, what would you tell your 25-year-old self or even, your 8-year-old self?
Yeah, I think that just like staying the course and continuing to work and believe in yourself, as cliche as it sounds, are the biggest key ingredients to success. And just to trust the process and enjoy the moment and enjoy the journey and worry less. Like those are the
Right.
biggest things that I would tell me at any age because as I mentioned I'm a perfectionist. I think a lot of us in this industry are. I'm very type A. Like I want
Same.
to I wanna know the plan, I wanna feel like everything's going perfect, and I wanna feel like I'm doing everything perfect and everything is happening when it's supposed to happen, and that's just not the reality of life, and life is messy, and the journey is really the enjoyable part, and I look back at where I've been in the last 5 years, the last 10 years, and I just think how freaking cool, and how many awesome
Right?
people have I met, and how many awesome experiences have I met, and how many times in the moment was I so worried about little and insignificant things that at the end of the day don't matter as long as you work hard, you continue to do things again, do things the right way, treat people the right way, be someone who's great to work with, do your best work, and that's really all you can do and let the rest
Sure.
figure itself out. And it's also hard because this is a fickle industry. This is a
Of
subjective
course.
industry, and you're going to have doors shut. There are going to be people that say no, that you don't know why, and coordinating producers that are going to ghost you. That still has happened to me recently, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't know what I did, and you beat yourself up about that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, like you can only control what you can control, and if you work hard, you do things the right way, and you treat people well, like it'll all work out the way that it's meant to work out. I just think that's easier said than done, and something that I
Totally.
feel like I've gained better perspective on the older that I've gotten versus like
Yeah.
worrying about every little thing. And I still do it. So listen, it's a work in
We all
progress.
do.
But
100%.
I do think that I have a different perspective on that now as I approach my mid-30s compared to 10 years ago.
Right. No, and it's an amazing perspective to have and to gain no matter where you are in your career or whatever stage
Totally.
your life you're in.
And
And
any
it always
career,
evolves
honestly.
too. That too. That too. Kylen, this has been awesome, but the last question I do ask
All right.
everybody is, and honestly, I feel like you might have even said it already, but just really broadcasting aside and your career aside, really just you as a person, but Kylen Mills, what's something you like most or admire about yourself?
I think that something I admire about myself is the passion that I bring to everything that I do, A.
Yeah,
B, I just think that being a team player is just something that is overlooked a lot nowadays, and I just think our
I
society has
agree.
changed a lot, and I hear about it all the time in sports in terms of athletes that are on teams now with the NIL, and coaches say everyone's out for themselves and their money, and it's harder and harder to get young athletes to buy in, and I think that in this industry, you get a lot of people who are out for themselves or fame or I don't know, just not necessarily in it to really tell great stories and impact people in a positive way. And that's
Yeah,
always been the reason why I did this. And I'm very proud of myself for doing that. And it's always been important to me to be a great teammate and to be someone that I try to be enjoyable to work with and to have great relationships with the people around me. So I'm proud of that. And then again, I'm just proud of the work and the passion that I bring to everything that I do because I love sports and I love telling
yeah,
people stories even more. And I think when that's at the heart of what you do, you're going to be successful and it's going to shine through to other people. And I think it has for me, at least to some degree. And of course, I'm always
I
trying
love it.
to find ways to improve, but I think that's the big thing. Can I say one final message?
Please, please.
My last thing is not necessarily something that I'm proud of with myself, but like I just really hope to continue to move the needle forward in terms of the
Yeah,
conversation surrounding women in sports and women
absolutely.
earning a place in sports. And I just think seeing that growth and the momentum the last couple of years has been so cool just in the fandom around
Oh
women's
my God, yeah,
basketball. It's been unbelievable to see. I cover a lot of women's soccer. Growth is continuing there.
yeah,
And then to see just more and more women who are in this industry or in different roles around sports in front offices, women becoming coaches in men's sports. I can't wait for the day where we see the first woman who's an NBA head coach, but I
Who do you
do
think
feel
it's gonna
like it's
be?
coming. Good question. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy that
Hmm.
Becky Hammon is now with Las Vegas Aces, but I'm sad
Right.
that she got passed up on for too many opportunities. So I don't know. I'll come back to that. But
I know.
yeah, I
I
just
thought it
think
would be her
that
personally. I did.
yeah, I thought for sure it would be her because of how much time she spent on the bench with Coach Pop.
Right.
Like that should be a person who should be an easy hire for somewhere. So, anyways, I love the movement we've seen surrounding women in sports, and that's something that I want to make sure I'm an active part of the conversation,
Yeah.
just in terms of inspiring other women, of continuing to be a sounding board for young broadcasters. I have people reach out to me all the time.
Yeah.
I try to respond. Of course, you miss emails, you miss
All the time.
Instagram messages. I'm not great about checking those. So if you've ever messaged me and I haven't responded, follow up, send a couple follow ups. I will try to get back to you because I do try to make time to
Yeah.
talk to up and coming broadcasters and things like that because I do think it's important to lift up the next person and to crack
Completely
the door
agree.
open a little bit wider. I just did a post for, National Girls and Women in Sports Day
I
that
saw.
was kind of a part of the messaging. So that's just kind of my final thought. I'm proud of the impact I've made, but I hope to continue to make more. And that's also
Totally.
something that I'm passionate about is hopefully sharing with other young women that like you can do this, you belong, and just go after your dreams and don't be intimidated by the fact that you may at times be the only woman in some rooms. And I work on a lot of broadcasts where I'm the only woman, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Be you, and everything will work out for the best.
You better believe it. Kylen Mills.
That was my
Thank you
final
so much
thought.
for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Dylan. It's been fun.